I'll do that at the same time.
All right. Well, hey, welcome everybody back for another episode of the Music Enlisted Option Program. No, Marine Enlisted Option Program. Bro, I'm still
All
trying
right.
to
Well,
get it
hey,
right.
welcome everybody back for another
So
episode.
I'm trying to get it right. But listen, everybody, I wanted to do this. So the entire purpose of this is for me to mess up, right? The purpose of this program and these 3 episodes is really to have musicians on to be able to discuss the Marine musician program, right? Because a lot of people like myself, we don't know anything about it. We've never dealt with it. There's Marines who've maybe never met a musician in the Marine Corps. I myself only met like two, but now being on recruiting duty and now with Instagram and stuff like this, it gives me the opportunity to reach out with people like Thayer here and be able to just talk to him about his experiences and stuff like that. I am actually going to be working with a Marine who is a musician, so that'll be pretty cool. Be able to actually have one in my office for the first time, so be able to learn a lot more about the program. But the purpose behind this episode, guys, is really just to, again, none of these episodes are ever to take away from your training that you're receiving from your RI shop or anything like that. It's not to take away from the volume or anything like that. It really is just to be just another tool in your toolbox, and hopefully you find it to be that thing. And again, this is not to replace any other tool. It's just to be just an addition to that. So definitely don't take this as doctrine or anything like that. It's just to share some wealth and knowledge and stuff like that, and be able to get some stories out there. So, without further ado, man, welcome to the podcast. And I know we've been talking about doing this podcast for probably like over a year.
Yeah,
So thank you for making the time to come on and talk, man. So welcome to the podcast, bro.
appreciate it. So for those of y'all that don't know me or haven't seen me before, my name is William Brian Thayer, Staff Sergeant type. I'm in the band, so as you might have guessed. A little bit about me. Both my parents are actually band directors, so that's kind of right off the jump. Kind of, it's in my DNA with music. So going out throughout high school, I've always been involved in music, and that's where it really took off. I played trumpet to start. I always wanted to play trumpet. My parents bought me a nice trumpet, like right going into high school, and then the band director was like, had no French horns. Was like, who wants to try it? My hand goes up, and then mom, dad, a little bit upset with me because they just bought me that new axe. But it was the best thing to happen to me because not a lot of people play the French horn. It's also very difficult. So it really opened a lot of doors for me, especially going into college. I went to Shepherd University, West Virginia, for music education to be like my parents, and made it through there. When I was in college, I was in a fraternity called Phi Mu Alpha. It's a men's music fraternity. So I was getting that brotherhood from that. And then when I was in my last year, my recruiter actually messaged me on Facebook. He got my name from my actual instructor there because my instructor knew I was looking into the military bands. I was actually looking into the National Guard because I had a brother who was doing the National Guard with Delaware while he was going to school. And then he was going to teach and still perform. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I was looking into it. I was going to the drills. I was going to like their kind of like drills with music and drills without it, just to kind of get a feel for it. I liked it, but they didn't really push me to do it.
Okay.
But my Marine recruiter, his name's Staff Sergeant Alsip, still talk to him to this day. Hopefully he's watching it, right? I'm sure he is. He, talked to me. He was like, hey, I heard you're interested in military music. Would you want to sit down? I'm like, yes. I was on Easter spring break, so I drove 2 hours to get back to school to meet with him. And we had a good conversation. Ended up sitting down, picking my tags, which they were challenge. Well, no, first physical fitness, then challenge, then leadership and management skills. And we had a nice conversation. What actually ended up happening is he heard my story and he did the whole recruiter thing where he like saw what I was actually picking, but realized I needed something else.
Mm.
And then so he really hit that. And even to the point where my whole time in the Marine Corps, I was thinking I needed pride of belonging because that's really important to me. And then when I'm a
Yeah.
recruiter, I look back into what I picked and I was like, oh, I didn't even pick that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he asked me, do you want to be a Marine? Do you want to take those next steps? And I said, well, yes, but I want to graduate college. And he's like, well, cool, you can do that. You got the delayed entry program. You can be in it for 365 days. I actually was in it a little bit longer because it took, it was a little bit past 365 days for me to graduate college, but they were willing to wait because I'm unicorn.
Yeah.
You don't find too many bandsmen, so the Marine Corps was willing to wait for me to graduate, and that really made me feel good, important, part of a team, and here I am.
Amen, man. Wow. Well, thanks for that, man. And
Yes.
it answers a lot of the questions that I had. But so you went all the way. So, because it's crazy that you say that, because one of the conversations that I was having recently was with my XO, and he said, he was like, dude, believe it or not, he was like, most of the bandsmen that we get aren't high school seniors. He was like, most of them are college educated people. They're already in college, either their third or fourth year. Not to say that we're not going to get, some Meopers from the senior programs, but he's like, realistically, the people that we're going to get are going to be in those 4-year colleges and those community colleges, right? So what was it about the Marine Corps that pushed you more so to the Marine Corps? Like what I know you said that you were drilling and you were doing the National Guard and your brother was doing that, and so what was it about the Marine Corps that drew you more towards them?
The feeling of brotherhood, straight up. I always, especially with music, we're just all together. We're sitting in a room breathing together, right? We're really close to each other. I've always been a part of something, and I always kept looking for more things to be a part of, right? So, like, when I was in high school, I did want to play football, but that the band and football didn't quite mix, right?
Yeah.
But I still wanted to be part of that team. Going to college, joining that fraternity, I got that brotherhood there, and I'm always just looking for more things to add to my group so that I can have more support, that I can have more like of that feeling of that close to people, having people to lean on. And it was very apparent that I would get that in the Marine Corps, and I felt it way more than I did with the Army. Not that the Army doesn't have that, right?
No,
sure.
yeah, but you could see the difference, and you could see the challenge and the differences between the two, and it was very apparent to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Another question for you, because it's something that we get all the time, right? As recruiters, and I'm sure that you can attest to this. People say, "Hey, man, I want to go to college for the college experience." And then I'll be honest, I've never been to college. I've never been in a dorm room, and I'm always just like, dude, you want to pay a whole lot of money just to go to school and party with people? Like, I don't really get it. But maybe a big part of it is that camaraderie. Maybe it is that, right? So can you kind of speak to that, right? Your college experience, and then the differences or similarities that you can relate to the Marine Corps in that aspect when it comes to the brotherhood, and when it comes to being in the band, and when it comes to being in a collegiate band and then being in a Marine Corps band. Like, can you kind of marry those up for us?
For sure. Yeah, so they are a little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities too, right? With lifestyle, right? Like I didn't really start having that college lifestyle until I actually joined my fraternity. But then once you join the Marine Corps, once you become a Marine, right, that lifestyle is right there, right? All what we do when we're done working, we go out, right? We go explore, and that it was there. So like you get some of that same lifestyle, like you're living in a barracks that's kind of like a dorm, and when you're in college, you're living in a dorm. So like those are pretty similar. What was different for me, at least on the music side, was when you're going to college, you're paying to be there, right? And as long as you're paying to be there, then you're good, right? For the Marine Corps, you're getting paid. So when it came to the schoolhouse, when I was taking lessons in the college, if I had a bad lesson, big deal, right? I'm paying for it. Like, we're just going to keep going. But in the Marine Corps, when I was getting lessons and I'm getting paid for it, if it was bad and I didn't practice enough or whatever, I wasn't prepared, they'd kick me out of it. So, like, and that is a different feeling. That makes you get better, right? That's that tough love that the Marine Corps has. So, like, I've gotten way better as a musician than I did in college. Now, I'm happy with my college experience. I loved it, and I'm having that college degree is very, very important. College is super important nowadays. It's kind of starting to get towards like the high school diploma equivalent. Like, you have to have it to pretty much be successful. I mean, not in every case, but it's getting that way. So I don't regret what I did, but some of it, I wish that I had some of that tough love in college that I got with the Marine Corps.
Yeah, yeah, because and that's one of the things that I've discussed with a lot of people, right? When you're talking about that college aspect, is that like from what I understand, when you're a bandsman, like or someone who plays a musical instrument, like at the end of the day, your job and your purpose is one thing, and that's to play music. So when you graduate and you don't have a job or you don't have a gig, you're looking for a gig. So then you're kind of in that position to where you're like, oh, well, what do I do now? So you were able to find the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps found you, whatever, which way you want to look at it. And now you're doing it as a profession, and you're able to do it every single day. But like you said, it's a different thing because now at this point, if you let somebody down or you don't play the note the right way, and you're doing that in front of presidents or you're doing that in front of dignitaries, it's very different than just a college thing. It's very so it definitely makes you a lot better of a person, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you can see that, right? So one of the questions that I would also have for you, and somebody asked, was so altogether, what instruments do you play for the band, or do you just play one instrument? Like, what do you play personally?
So my job, my MOS code, I can't remember. Unfortunately, I can't remember the exact one. Each instrument has an exact MOS code, so that's also what adds into us having like 300 plus, right? My instrument I play for the Marine Corps is French horn. That's my specialty. Now on the side, because I sing really well, and they found that out, then they're like, oh, we're going to use you in that way, right? So like you'll see on my Instagram, I post a lot of stuff about me singing, right? Because that's just what I do on the side, but that's not actually what I'm paid to do, right? But like utilize a talent, right? I've also played trumpet for the band in the pop music, our popular music group, because they needed an extra horn, and I'm like, well, I used to be a trumpet player and picked up the axe again, practiced a little bit, made it sound good. I'm pretty versatile because being a music education major, I had to learn them all because I have to teach them. So I know how to play every single instrument. I'm more heavy on the brass side. I played tuba in the Marine band before. I like brass. Woodwinds are a little bit harder for me. I know how to, but I wouldn't be picking up a woodwind instrument playing in the band unless I had to work up for it, right? But mainly I'm supposed to. I'm going to be playing French horn. That's me.
Okay, so one of the things I also wanted to talk about, man, and I feel like people don't understand, is I feel like a lot of people, when they hear military band of any kind, especially the Marine Corps, I feel like they get turned off by it, right? I feel like if I'm somebody who went to college for music, or I'm someone who's in high school and I'm really eager to play music, I feel like when the Marine Corps walks into the school and says, hey, you can be in the band, I feel like a lot of people's immediate persona or thoughts are, dude, I don't want to march around all day and get yelled at and screamed at, right? But I also, what I want people to understand, and maybe you can help us, is that that's not all it is. You actually travel the world. You play personally with your friends and family, or the other bandsmen's. Like, I know friends of mine who told me, hey, like we were out in NOLA, and we did what we did as Marines, and then at night we went and played at clubs and stuff like that. So, like, can you kind of discuss for us the good times that you've had, the fun times, the traveling, talk about like the experiences that weren't so left, right, and like that part of it?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes down to it, the band is ceremonial in our purpose. So we'll go and support change of command ceremonies when one CO is leaving and the other CO comes in, or like relief and appointment where the sergeant major leaves and the new one comes in, or retirements, right? That's our main purpose, is to be there for those ceremonies and to march in the block for the pass and review and the sound off and stuff. And we sound good, right? We get the slow march when everyone's like, oh my God, I love it when you do that slow march thing. Like, it looks really cool. It's awesome, right? But that's the dues, right? We got to do that so we can do the fun stuff, right? And that fun stuff is breaking the band into small pieces. So like our popular music group, rock band or brass band, or woodwind quintets, brass quintets, and then we can split those and go do all these different things. So, and like tour the world. So in Okinawa, Japan, when I was in our popular music group, we named it Adapt and Overfunk, kind of like adapt and overcome, but we put it into musical terms. We toured for the 4th of July, and we went to like 3 or 4 different countries and went to those embassies and literally just put on a show. And it was like a 3-hour long set. It was rough, but did it. And got to meet those ambassadors, got to meet those musicians from other bands of other countries. And even though we couldn't speak to them really, we had the international language. So, and then when we were done, rehearsing or even performing, then we would just go out and they would show us their country. So like, got a lot of good experiences there. Gunner Sergeant Salazar, he mentioned going to Iwo Jima. I've been there twice. I got to sing the national anthem and Amazing Grace for that reunion of honor ceremony for the vets of both sides. That was very impressive and very fun. We got to actually hike up Mount Suribachi. So, and that was crazy to see the Black Sands going up there, feeling how they like kind of what they went through. Insane. Been to Bella Wood, got to drink from the Devil Dog fountain.
Nice.
Apparently, if you drink, any Marine drinks from that fountain, 10 years are like added to your life, because it's like the fountain of youth, basically. So, as we say. So, and then seeing
that's why you look so young.
yeah. And then seeing those wheat fields was insane, because there's no cover there, right? So seeing what past Marines went through was super important. And I got to go to some of those hallowed grounds. Being in California, some things we did was we actually went on an episode of Hell's Kitchen. And I actually got to get a program of the what they cooked for us signed by Gordon Ramsay. I got to meet Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, there's so many cool things that we can do. Was on an episode of Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady. One of my friends, Sergeant Malone, actually won a trip to Hawaii from there. I mean, wild stuff, right? Like, the opportunities are endless. Like, you can do so many cool things that you'll never forget.
That's awesome, bro. That's freaking crazy. And I think that's like, and I'm glad that you say that, because like I said, man, like so many people think that like you don't have those opportunities, and people think that like, oh, I'm just going to be stuck on base, or I'm going to be stuck doing this, and I don't have the ability to have that free range. And here you are talking about traveling the world, going to different countries, playing, in a band, and doing all these different things, and actually having all that. And and the best part about it is like, you didn't have to pay for any of it, right? Because like, and that's the thing.
They actually pay you per diem. So
and like the Marine Corps is paying you for food, travel, back and forth, and then if you have a family, like all this stuff, separation pay, and and that's why, like, that's one of the biggest things that I try to explain to people, man, is that like, someone in the past month, I've had like 4 or 5 interviews where the conversation ended with the applicant saying, well, it just sounds too good to be true. And I said, because it is, man. Like, and I'm like, dude, there's nothing, like, there's nowhere where I'm trying to pull the rug from under you. Like, There's nothing that like you're gonna get caught with this money or you're gonna need to pay it back. Or I'm like, dude, like it's and the biggest thing I try to explain to people, man, is like, is it tough? Yes. Is it gonna cost a lot? Yes. Is it going to take you away from your family? Yes. Is it going to change you mentally, physically, emotionally, and all these different things? Yes, right. And everything comes with a toll, and it's like these are all things. Like, yeah, it's too good to be true, but the reality of it is you're not getting it for free, right?
Mm.
You have to put in the time. Like for someone like yourself, especially when it comes into the music industry, in order for you to be able to go to 4 or 5 different countries and play for different dignitaries, you've got to be good. Like that's part of the cost, right? So and that cost doesn't come with nothing. It comes with you being there, trying and constantly, getting better at all these different types of instruments, right? And it comes with the time of going to school and doing all these different things. So again, yeah, it is too good to be true. But what is going to stop you from taking that opportunity? Because the reality of it is that there's so many people like yourself. You could have chosen to not join the Marine Corps. You could have chosen not to become a Marine, and you could have chosen to stay in your town that you grew up in, and you could have just gone and been a high school music teacher, just done what most people do with their music degrees, right? But you decided, hey, let me serve my country, and in doing so, be able to take this beautiful thing we call music and share it with the world, and be able to do that. And then that gave you these opportunities, right? And one of the things that we were going to talk about is, part of that, it sounds too good to be true, is, well, in order to be a musician in the Marine Corps, you've got to be a Marine first, right?
Yes.
So tell me about that, right? Tell me about, because people also need to understand, like, dude, you've got to be rifle qualified. You have to go through boot camp. You still have to run a physical fitness test. You still have to run a combat fitness test. And then if you're a part of a certain unit and they have training going on, you're going to be doing stuff like that. So can you kind of run us through that, the Marine aspect of the music program?
Yep. So, as you might have heard, or you might have heard that bandsmen don't go to recruit training. That is only on the president's own side. That's the top tier band. They don't go to recruit training, but the field bands, we do, right? So that's what makes us, we're all the same. We all get the same training. So we go through recruit training too. And that was a blast, right? I actually loved it. Like if you talk to any Marine and you ask us about recruit training, we don't talk your ear off, right? That's kind of what brings us together. And that's where you learn those, what makes us Marines. Like that's the yearly qualifications, the PFT, the CFT, the rifle qual. That never goes away, even when we're in our job, right? Like, yeah, we're doing our ceremonies, we're traveling the world, but hey, when we got some white space in there, we're fitting in that CFT, we're fitting in that PFT. The physical fitness test, the combat fitness test. We're shooting on the rifle range every single year. And bandsmen tend to be good shots, to be honest, right? Because we got that focus. We have the breathing down, right? Usually we do pretty good. It took me a little while to get there. In recruit training, we all are going to have our thing that we struggle with. And to be honest, rifle ball was mine in recruit training. I just couldn't get it. And I wasn't listening to my coaches. I was listening to the senior drill instructor. He was telling me it was like Call of Duty. He was telling all of us it's like Call of Duty. You're going to look in that ACOG site, and it's just like that. It's not just like that. There's so much more. Like you have to actually hold. You have to hold your shot, right? Because your BZO might not be right on. And I didn't really get that. But in the fleet, that's when you get all that every year you're shooting. So, and I was listening to coaches, and every year I just kept getting better. Now I'm just fifth award expert, right? Coming from a pizza box out of recruit training. So yeah, you're going to be able to refine those skills. Like if you go to different bands, each what you're going to do on the Marine Corps side is we go on security platoons. So like if the commanding general is going to go, then the band is going to go and be the security for a commanding general and kind of be around the fob. And so we'll often train up for that because Marines, we never go anywhere without the proper training. you can assure that we're gonna be ready. And so we'll be doing security patrol stuff, security platoon stuff out in the field for maybe a week or two, maybe even a month. And that was super fun. But, when we get back, time to rock and roll. That's why, we have to be so good on becoming in. That's why you have to pass an audition coming in, because you're going to go through months of maybe not playing, right? Like recruit training, 3 months long, and then Marine combat training a month long. And then you're going to go back to school, not playing for 4 months, and you got to be just as good.
Yeah.
So,
and that's like right now when you're off your duty. And I'll be honest, I didn't even think about this until the other day when I was talking to the recruiter. So I'm going to be a station commander, and I have a recruiter who's currently in the band, and he's on recruiting duty. And he knows you, Betty. And
I love Betty.
Yeah, so me and him, I'll be honest, I've only had like 2 or 3 conversations with him, but I was just talking to him. I'm about to go over there and work with him alongside each other. And one of the things that I said to him was like, "Hey man, what do you need from me? Because I know you're heading back to the fleet." And he was just like, "Once I can, I just need the time to start playing the instrument because I haven't played in 2.5 years." And he's going to the school of music, and he said he's going to be there for like 6 months. And I'm like, "Oh." So I'm just like, yeah, man. So like, you haven't been to school, you haven't played in 2.5 years. So now your job is to go and play that instrument again, right? So, and that's the thing, right? Is being a bandsman, like you still have to do an STA, like you still have to be a Marine, and I think that sometimes people are like weirded out by that, maybe, or just don't understand that part, like. But what would you say is your favorite memory in the band, like in the time that you've been in the Marine Corps?
So to be honest, my favorite memories are actually in the field. Because kind of like recruit training, like when you're going through the suck and you're going through it together, that brings you together. And then you just sit back and joke about it later on. So same thing with the field. When you're in the field, there's some crappy stuff that's happening, right? I'm just being honest. But like when you look back on it, you just laugh at it because it was actually a good time. Just it didn't feel like that in the moment. And so my favorite field ops were like going to Yuma, Arizona, being opposing forces for 3-5, and we've never done anything like that, so we were hyped up. Usually when infantry units like go out and battalions go out to do opposing forces, they're usually opposing forces for each other, so they might get a little bit bored of it or something. But they were not ready for what we had to bring, because we were just hyped up. We were like, okay, yeah, we're coming into this blazing. People are like, oh, it's the band, like the preconceived notion. No, we come to rock. So there's so many stories that I have with my boys that where we actually found like their scout snipers when we were out there. You're not supposed to find them. There was like a mount town where they had to go actually door by door for all the 4 houses where we were locked in, and we kind of like 550 corded the doors shut, so they had to like break them in. We put all the furniture in the stairwell, so they had to like sift through it to get to us. And then when we ran out of ammo, we literally just fought them, and they were not ready for that. Right. So that's the kind of stuff I never would even thought of. Like I I came into Marine Corps wanting music. Right. But I never thought that I would actually be, learning McMap, like the martial arts program, like actually fighting. I've never been a fight in my life until, joining this wonderful organization. And now I actually freaking love it. So like just give it a shot. Right. You'll never know what you're going to learn, and you're never going to know how that's going to help you in the long run. Like now I know that I can, fend for myself. Like, and if anything comes up, especially for my family, if something was to happen, well, guess what? I'm trained. So I can step up for my family. Like not a lot of people can say that they can do that. They might say, yeah, I'm going to step up for my family, but are you trained? Right. Like I am.
No, dude. And that's definitely something, that we don't talk about too often. And people ask that question. They're like, well, if I'm, and I was getting people, I'll be honest. I thought I was getting PCs, and I did not
Yeah,
get
that's
PCs.
how it goes.
I did not get PCs, and I still haven't gotten PCs. But I went to the house and in understanding that I was getting PCs. And one of the questions that the mother asked me was, "Well, why does my son have to go to boot camp if he's playing in the band?" And I said, "Well, ma'am, because the Marine Corps is the Marine Corps." And I was like, "Your son still has to know how to improvise and adapt and overcome, and your son still has to know how to take care of himself and those around him." And man, if God forbid something did happen, wouldn't you want your son to know how to defend himself? And especially in today's day and age, like when he gets out of the Marine Corps and he's working in a building or he's working in a school or he's doing any of these things, you would hope that he would know what to do in a case like this. And that's why the Marine Corps puts us in these positions, is so that when we are in a position like that, we know what to do and we know how to adapt and overcome, and that we're not surrounded by people who don't know how to do it. And
I'm
that's
like,
why, yeah, and
yeah.
that's why we know how to do what we got to do, and then we step up and we do what we have to. But in short, that's the reason why. And she was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." But back to you, man. So what I know in the beginning you kind of explained to us your background, talked to us about how your parents were musicians. But what was it besides mom and dad being in the band? What was it that you found in it that made you decide to make it a career thing? And then also, why are you still in the Marine Corps? Like, why haven't you got a degree? Why
Yeah.
haven't you gotten out? Like, what? Why are you still in?
So, when I was coming in, well, I could have easily gotten a job as a band director, as you mentioned earlier, even in like kind of the area back home, because my dad kind of retired, or he kind of moved away from his high school band to position right about the time I was graduating. So I literally could have just stepped into that school and the same name, and they would have been like, "Oh, you're his son? Yeah, you got the job." Like that could have happened, right? But I didn't quite want to give up the performing side, because with music education, you're teaching people to perform, but you're not really performing yourself as much anymore. So I was like, I don't really want to give that up yet. And so that's why I did this thing, and I've gotten plenty of performance. A lot of what I played before, right? Like good literature is good literature in music. So like if it's good, you can expect to keep playing that. But a lot of stuff that I haven't played. So even when I go get out of the Marine Corps and I become a band director after, I'll have so much more like music that I've played. I have all these places that I've been to, these experiences that I can draw on, so that when I'm teaching people to perform, then I mean, I've been performing like for 10 years now pretty much. And I'm going to continue to, because I love that side of music, is performing, and it's going to make me teach even better. So that's why I kind of keep staying, is just because I'm keep getting these amazing experiences. I keep meeting these awesome people that I can like build up my network too. I mean, like it's a great place to be, and I'm just literally having fun every single day, just playing my instrument, singing. What's better than that? Like, and then I still get to do, like, I get to work out every day. I'm paid for it, right?
Yeah.
Like how can you complain about that?
No,
Um,
dude, and you're right, man. And I think that's a big part of it that people also forget is that word networking. The amount of and I said this to somebody the other day in my office. I was like, two things. Number one, I pulled out my phone and I scrolled all the way down to the bottom of my iPhone. And if you go all the way down to the bottom of your iPhone in your contacts, it'll tell you how many people you have in your contacts. And I have like 1,100 people in my contacts. And then what I'll do is I'll go to private, and then I'll go to sergeant, and then I'll go to staff sergeant, and then I'll look at and I'll show them like, dude, I have 1,000 people in my phone, but they're not civilians. They're all Marines that I've met in the Marine Corps, and
yeah,
they're people that are from all across the United States, people from that I've met from Australia and Germany and stuff like that. And they're people that if I called right now would help me out if I needed to. But most importantly, they're also my network. They're network of people. That's why, like, when people are like, "Oh, how do you have so many podcast episodes?" I'm like, dude, I just hit up strangers that I've never met that are Marines, and they just hop on. And I have all these relationships now that I've built just through networking in the Marine Corps, right?
all you need is that title. right? Like, because if you're a Marine, we already know you, right? Like, we
Yeah,
basically
yeah, dude, it
like
moves mountains, man. Like when people find things out, like or or even simply, dude, like it, man, being on recruiting duty, like when you ask for something from somebody, and it's like, oh, hey, I need these documents done, and it'll be like, oh, well, we'll get it done in a couple of days. But like when you call and you say, hey, this is Staff Sergeant Bennett with the United States Marine Corps, they're like, hey, what's going on, sir? How can I help you?
Mhm.
Or and it happens. And now, mind you, listen, I'm not saying that I use the rank or the Marine Corps as a a thing to get me out of things or anything like that, but it's just that it's a reality of things where when you know that someone's a Marine, you'll do differently for them, and it's just the facts. Like I had a guy who was like 80 something years old. He was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. He came in just to get a sticker for his new car. And he was like, yeah, I joined in 1987 and I was this, and the third. And I graduated this high school, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you guys have anybody who joins out of that school? And I was like, no, sir. I was like, to be honest with you, they don't even let us in. Bro, this man's face went, he said, what?
He went in
He
that.
said, excuse me? He said, that year when I graduated high school, he said, me and 5 of my buddies, we all joined the Marine Corps. And he said, you're telling me they won't even let you in the damn school? And I was like, no, sir, they're not letting us in. He goes, give me 1 minute. Dude literally pulls out his phone, gets on the phone. Next thing you know, I have 3 emails from freaking people from the high school. And I was like, dude, I've been trying to get a hold of them all year long. And he was like, you let me know. And it's like, and it's, dude, it's literally stuff like that, man. Like you meet these Marines who know everybody, and it's like, oh, you having a problem? Give me a call. Oh, someone needs a job? Give me a call. Someone needs a letter? Give me a call.
Mhm.
And and it's just that pride of belonging, man, like you had said before. Um, and then being a part of the band, it's even furthermore because now you're a Marine and you're in the band. So now that you have that click too, right? So so how did you find that challenge that you were looking for? How have you found it in the Marine Corps?
Yeah. So when I was picking my tags, the reason why I was picking them was kind of super basic, right? And I feel like a lot of people actually do it that way. Like they see the surface value of why they pick that and why it's important to them, but they don't really see what's deeper. And that's what the recruiter will do, is to try to ask questions to actually get to the root of it. So when I picked challenge, I literally just picked it because like I felt like if I'm doing something, I'm out of trouble, right? I'm not gonna get in trouble. I'm just always busy. I'm always doing something and I always have purpose. So that's why I picked it. And how I've gotten it is doing things that I never thought that I would have been able to do. Like I kind of hit on it before with like the McMap, like the martial arts and fighting. Never thought I would do that, but now I love it and it is challenging. Um, right now I'm wearing the shirt that I got from the Marine Corps Marathon that I ran this past year in October.
Oh,
Never thought I would do that, right? Like, but it was on my bucket list, and I came up with the bucket list when I'm in the Marine Corps. So like, and the Marine Corps has afforded me the kind of courage and to go after those things that I never thought that I would actually been able to do. Even like riding my motorcycle across the whole country from California all the way to Maryland before I went to Okinawa, Japan, like 3,000 plus miles. Took me 7 days with my dad. Good old trip. Like that was a challenge. That was definitely a challenge. And I wouldn't have gotten that challenge or opportunity if it wasn't for the Marine Corps having me over in California. Actually, just seeing all those places. I mean, I've definitely, and I put those challenges upon myself too. Like everywhere I go, I want to look for something to do. I want to look for something like exciting. Like when I first got to Okinawa, Japan, first thing I'm doing is scuba. Like one of my gunnies, his name's Gunner Sergeant Brooks. He was telling me that if you go to Okinawa and you don't like scuba dive, then don't talk to me, right? Like that's what I want you to do, and I want you to get a GoPro, and I want you to get it on video, and I want you to show it to me, and that's what I did. As soon as I got to Oki, got a GoPro, signed up for my scuba classes, went in the pool and then started breathing underwater. I was like, whoa, this is wild. We're not supposed to be doing this. And then went into the ocean, and then it was like finding Nemo under there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so a lot of people won't even do that, right? Because like people are scared of the water, right?
Bro.
Like, yeah.
Dude, this podcast is definitely going in a totally different way from music, but that's good, right? So it's important. So there's two things that I want to shed some light on, right? Number one, when we talk about the benefit tags. So when we talk about the benefit tags, right, it's all in the delivery. If you do not deliver the benefit tag presentation with enough oomph and explanation of what it is, right? Because I'll be honest, right? Like, and I know people are gonna hate me for this, but the one that we receive in BRC, that's just, hey, it actually, if this might be the worst way for me to explain this, but so you know how in the Bible it tells you how to pray, right? So
Mhm.
our Father who art in heaven, right? That is just a example on how to pray. Okay.
Yes.
The BRC introduction to the benefits tags is just an example. From there, you need to build your own, and you need to change it to the applicant. You change it to the person. You change it to and you can, when people see my interviews, they notice, they're like, dude, like when you did it with this guy, it was this way, but when you did it with this guy, it was this way. And I'm like, yeah, when I'm building my rapport, I'm setting my appointment, that's when I'm formulating how am I going to do my benefit tag presentation with this person when I have the interview, because every person is going to understand it differently, and sometimes you're going to have to explain it one time, two times, three times, because they might not understand. And it's important that people understand what you're doing with the benefit tags and the purpose of it. And then on top of that, like you said before, your recruiter was able to see that this was your tag, but below the surface there was more things. And that's the biggest thing, right? Because when we're sitting down with an individual, someone that we probably just met off the street, maybe yesterday or sometimes the same day, we're now trying to have this intimate, articulate conversation with somebody about their livelihood and changing their life, changing their trajectory. They never thought about the Marine Corps until this moment. And now all of a sudden, we're trying to figure out what's been going on in their life for 18 some odd years, if not more. So it's very important for us to be finding Nemo and start looking everywhere left and right to try to figure out, hey man, like, what do you mean by that? Why did you pick that? Why do you mean this? Oh, okay, you're saying this, boom. So it's very important that we do that, right? And then on top of that, the other thing that I was going to say too is I like what you said there, that your gunny was like, hey, go to Okinawa, get these tickets, get the GoPro, and go do that. And you said not everybody's going to do that. And that's the big thing that we have to hone in on, is people will always say, oh, well, my cousin was in the Marine Corps and he had a horrible time. Bro, that's great, dude. That's your cousin, man. I don't know. I don't know his life, bro. He could have joined the Marine Corps, never left his barracks room, and never did anything. He could have
And
been a
that's why
horrible
people hate them,
person. He could have
to
been
be honest.
like,
Like,
it's and that's why it's so important that you bring that up, is that and like you said, I choose to challenge myself. I choose to go out of my way to do more challenges. And then you have Marines to your left and right that are continuing to challenge you. So again, you took challenge and you really made it the forefront of your career and said, hey, I'm going to continue to challenge myself daily.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's now. And why would you say that is? Like, why do you care? Like, why? First of all, also on top of that, like, what put it in your head to do a marathon? And then not only, let's understand, not only to do a marathon, but to do a marathon while on recruiting duty. Because that's just like, what? So let's talk about that, man. Like, what made you decide to uptake that challenge? And let's talk about that.
I mean, I feel like if you're a Marine and you're around the area of DC, you should be wanting and gunning for that marathon. It's our race, right? And then so when I was running it, and I had my USMC recruiter shirt on. I mean, as soon as somebody saw that USMC and saw that I was actually a Marine, right? Like that they were cheering more, right? And that was a constant the whole 26.3 miles or 26.2 miles was like the like it was lined with people and they were cheering the whole time. I didn't need music at all, right? Like it was just motivation. And then I got to meet the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps on the run, right? We took a selfie together. I mean, it was wild. I mean, like, so, and that's the thing, man. Like every year, I'll be coming up with these goals and these bucket list items, and then I'll check them off. And since I'm here, and this is kind of my hometown, and I've never ran a marathon. So I was like, well, and then I have buddies that run a marathon during the COVID timeline. We did 1,000 kilometers.
Well, hold on. I gotta ask you a question.
Yeah.
So are you a runner? Like, are you somebody who actually likes to run? Because I'll be honest. When I hear people talk about a marathon, I am intrigued by it. Like I'm enthralled by it. Like I'm like, yo, I would love to do a marathon, right? And I'll tell you, I ran when I was in BRC. You know how I don't know if they still do it. Well, when I was in BRC, they had the 100-mile club. So you had to run 100 miles by
I did
like
that.
Yeah. So I don't run. I do not run. But
Yeah.
for some reason, well, no, when I checked in before I checked in the BRC, I ran a PFT and it was bad. And my master guns was like, hey, you're gonna come back from BRC with a first class, like with a high first class. And he was like, you're gonna do the 100-mile club. And if you don't come back. So I did it, and I remember 2 times. It was right when Pokemon Go just came out, and I'm not a runner, so I literally just from my room, I just got out and I ran 13 miles through San Diego. Like I'm lost, I have no idea. I'm just throwing Pokeballs and I'm just chugging along, and like I think I want to say it took me like 2 or 3 hours, and I ran 13 miles, and I did it twice.
Yeah.
And when I was done, I was like, yo, I actually kind of like that. And I'll be honest, I've never done it again. But I don't know. Like part of me is like, so that's my question to you is like, are you a runner and you're someone who actually likes running? Like, cause there's this guy, Matt Sergeant Disla. He is on the district training team, I believe. And dude, this guy, bro, yesterday he ran 20 miles and it's freaking like 35 degrees out here in Jersey. And he was in New York. And he not only did he run 20 miles, but he ran 20 miles at an 8-minute pace. I'm like, bro, like, how do you do this for fun? Yeah. Like, so my question to you is that like when you were training for this marathon, like what were you doing and how, like, and did you start out as a runner, or were you somebody who like you don't really run that often and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna run a marathon? Like,
I mean, running and me, love-hate relationship. I was a soccer player growing up, so I mean, obviously, if you're playing soccer, that's a lot of running. And I was midfield, so that's like running back and forth. So running's always kind of been in my life. But then once I got in the Marine Corps and then into college and a little bit of high school, I realized I was a little shrimp, and so I was like, I want to change that. And I got in the gym and I started getting gains. And you know, like any big lifter, once you start getting those gains, kind of don't want to run because you're going to lose the gains, right? So like for a while, I was like, nah, I don't really like running because I'm in the gym and I'm getting big. But then, you know, with COVID, there was 1,000 kilometer summer challenge we did because nobody was doing the actual races and they were doing it virtually because of what was going on. And I was in Okinawa, so we kind of put that challenge together. And I was like, all right, bet, I'm gonna do it. And so 1,000 kilometers kind of ends up being around like 890 or something miles. So over the course of 3 months, I ran that much. So like that's when I really started to get into the running mindset.
Hold on. You ran 890 miles in 3 months.
Well, it was a little bit more than that. I mean, no, it was a little bit more than 3 months. Like the competition was supposed to be 3 months long, but then I think we extended it another month or something.
Okay, I don't care. 4 months, even 6 months, bro. 890 miles. Oh my god.
Yeah, so that's when I really got into the mindset of running. And that's when I really started to love it, because once you get past that like hour of running, then you start getting that runner's high. Then you start thinking about everything and anything. And then like whatever questions you have about life, you're going to answer them because you're just in your head. You're just in flow state at that point. And that's what I love about running. Because once you get past that threshold,
Well,
that's
see, like here's my thing, man. Like, and that's how I feel, right? Like when I run a PFT, I hate my life. But at the end of the PFT, I'm like, yo, I could run more. And I'm
yeah,
just like, why can't it be like, why can't I feel that way when I start the PFT?
100%. No, but yeah,
Like dude,
your mind's
yo,
gotta
you're making me. I know this is supposed to be an episode about the Meop program, but you're making me want to start challenging myself and running more. Like because I'll be honest, man. Like every time I think about running, I want to run more. Like I always say that. I'm always like, bro, I want to run, and then as soon as I get outside and I start to run, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to run no more.
Yeah, along with the challenge, right? How my mind works. Since I'm done with that just regular marathon now, most people when they're done with the marathon, like, oh, never again. Oh, that sucked, right? But now,
I mean,
since
you're
it's
about to do a triathlon.
now, I'm like, what's next? Ultra marathon,
Mm.
which is 50 to 100 miles. So like in one go. So that's on the radar for the future. Not this year, right? But
Yo,
like later on in life, I'm gonna be running the ultra
yeah.
marathon. That's the next on the
Well,
totem pole.
that's like that guy. He's called Iron Cowboy. So
Mhm.
he ran like I want to say it was like 54 Ironmans every day,
Oh my
back to back to
god.
back to back to back to back to back. I forget what his real name is, but he has a book called Iron Man. And I was reading it, and it's like, dude, this guy got to the point where like he was like his toenails were falling off of his feet as he was running, and I'm just like, bro, what? And it's like, and then he would sleep in like either his car or a truck, and like then they would drive to the next destination because he did one Ironman in every state, and it
Mhm.
was the next day. So he had to drive from state to state to state to state. And I was like, bro, what is wrong with, and like in the sleet, in the hail, in the rain, and it's like, bro, wow.
I
Like,
mean, gotta put your name on the board somewhere, right? And that's how you do
yeah.
it. Do something that nobody else will do.
Mm. Yeah,
So and
that's
that's
crazy, man.
yeah, man.
So what would you say, going back to the music thing, man, and kind of capping it up, man, like in all the time that you've been in the Marine Corps, what would you say is your most fondest memory from traveling and from playing?
Hmm. Uh, I mean, that's a tough one because there's so many. One of my favorites was whenever we were going to Malaysia and to play with the Malaysian Army Band. I met a really good friend there, another vocalist, and we actually exchanged like dog tags. So I have his dog tags from when he went to boot camp, and then I gave him mine from when I went to boot camp. And then we actually, I went there and we bring the song from Josh Turner, you know, baby, lock the door and turn the lights still on. Like that song, right? We brought that and he knew it. And then we sang it together. Also, like the um, Fantasy from Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like we sang that, but then they had a version of it in Malay, and so then they sang the second verse in Malay. And then the second time we went to Malaysia, I learned the second verse in Malay, and I sang it for the people in Malaysia and with them. Also, their like country song or their like province song. I learned it, and then we got to sing it with them, and they were like super hyped that we were singing in their language. Like that's the kind of stuff that is my favorite. Like going to the other countries, playing music with them, but also playing their music and singing their language, because that hits different. Like that's international relations to the T, right?
Yeah.
That's what that's what builds these relationships. That's what makes us so like good, and what it makes it so powerful.
Amen.
Like that we can connect in that level, and that we truly care about each other, even though we're from different countries, we're in different militaries, like we're working together.
Yo, dude, and that's a great place to end it. And kind of cap it up for another episode. But it really is awesome how you I think people forget that part, and that's what I love about having programs like this program, right? Is that people think the Marine Corps is just for one thing and one thing only, and then we get to hear things like this and talking about playing music across the world with different nations and being able to share these moments with other people and have this camaraderie and be able to bring people together, and for you to be able to go to the Iwo Jima, like go there, and for you to be able to go to Belleau Wood, and for you to be able to do all these different things and remember people while also sharing these new memories with other people. It's an amazing thing to realize that the Marine Corps is not just about killing bodies, bro. Like there's so many other things that the Marine Corps is there to do, right? Humanitarian missions and different aids and all these different things. So it's really good to remind us of that. What last words do you have for everybody, man? And we'll definitely have another episode. And if you guys have any questions for either of us, please let us know so that the next episode we can kind of hone more in on the music and stuff like that and more of his story. But what last thoughts do you have for us, man?
Well, I want to kind of capitalize on what you just said, right? With the kind of different ways, the different things that we do, right? Now, every job actually does support the infantry, right? Like that's how the Marine Corps works, but in different ways. So, like with us, right? And the military in general is peacekeeping. That's what we're supposed. That's what our purpose is to be peacekeepers, right? So, like when we go to different countries and we uplift, right? Then we're sharing that, right? So like, but then we when things get down to business, then we're gonna rock and roll. But like mainly, we don't want that to happen. Nobody in the Marine Corps wants to actually go to war and to be in conflict. I feel like it's like a lifeguard kind of thing. Like when you're a lifeguard, do you actually want to save someone from drowning, or like do you want someone to drown? No. When you're serving in the military, do you want to go to war? Do you want to kill someone? No. But like we're trained for it. And you better believe that, you're happy that that lifeguard comes and save you. Same thing with the military, same thing with the Marines. You're happy that you have those people around that are trained, that can do what they need to do and then get back to what they're doing. It's a peacetime kind of peacekeeping organization. So if you're even thinking about the Marine Corps and the military, like, yeah, you're going to get those skills, but we're peacekeeping and you're going to get amazing opportunities.
Amen, man. And I couldn't echo that more, man. At the end of the day, it's all about the opportunity, and it's all about taking the opportunity, because if the opportunity is afforded to you and you don't take it, then that's on you. If the Marine Corps is affording you the opportunity to challenge yourself, and that was the reason why you decided to become a Marine, and you decide to no longer challenge yourself, well, then that's on you. At the end of the day, guys, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I know, again, this has been something that's long overdue. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time out on a Sunday to get on here and talk about the Marine Corps. It's not like we don't do it enough every day. But hey, thanks again so much, man. Definitely have you back for another episode. Again, guys, if you have any questions that you have specifically to music, or you have questions specifically to the Marine Corps, enlisting, or just life in general, please reach out with them. Follow us on Instagram. I'm at Semper sometimes. And then what's your Instagram?
Well, it's the little the description right there, Thayer Thrash. Yep. That's how you can find me. If you just type in that search bar, Thayer Thrash, I'm verified. That blue check mark's gonna come up. So that's how you can find me. You can ask me any questions. You can see, my posts about music. I've had a great time, and I just want to share it with the world.
Amen. Well, hey, thanks a lot, man. I hope you have a good rest of the night and good luck tomorrow.
You too. Pleasure to be here with you, man.
All right, brother.